Outside. Got out of the car. It said 72 degrees. Sun is shining here in downtown Salt Lake City, Utah. Going to be a little cool over the weekend, but it looks all right. Temps dropping into like the lower 60s. Coming up for your weekend. You're almost to the weekend. Happy Thursday to you. Hope you're having a great week. Have some fun weekend plans. A lot to do Thursday afternoon style. Rory McIlroy has not played competitive golf in more than a month, but it has not mattered. Scottie Scheffler's on the course. He is raking. The best players in the world of PGA golf have descended upon Augusta National in Georgia for the 90th playing of the Masters tournament. Keep you up to date throughout the course of the program today. We have it on in the studio, so I will try to focus. Sam Burns, Rory McIlroy, both carded 67s today. They are 5 under par, and they are your leaders in the clubhouse. Kirk Kitayama, Jason Day, Patrick Reed carding 69s. Justin Rose is 3 under through 10. Gary Woodland and Scottie Scheffler are 3 under through 8. Shane Lowry and Xander Schauffele have carded 70s there in the clubhouse. And how about 66-year-old Freddie Couples, 2 under par through 13. Then Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas are 2 under par through 10 and 9, respectively. So the 90th playing of the Masters tournament at the Augusta National Golf Club in Augusta, Georgia is going on right now. Keep you up to date. Fun weekend for golf fans. Utah Jazz are off tonight. Their final home game of the season is tomorrow as the Memphis Grizzlies are in town. And that will be a battle of two unserious teams. Honestly, if you haven't watched these games where two teams are tanking, it's somewhat entertaining to watch the coaches do what they can to lose. We'll see if Will Hardy can outmaneuver the Memphis counterpart to get that loss for the Jazz tomorrow. Mammoth are in action, taking on Nashville. On the local scene, RSL is off until the 18th. They're going to take on San Diego, and the Utah Royals are off until the 26th when they take on Seattle. We'll use this opportunity to tease the TV show tonight at 10:35 on KMYU. We call it Talkin' Real. My co-host this week, Jason Kreis. Dunny's off this week, so Jason Kreis will be on the program this evening. Got some, let's see. Let's do our daily NBA schedule check. Our two serious teams playing. Well, two serious teams are playing at Madison Square Garden. The Celtics and the Knicks will play tonight. The Heat and the Raptors, that's all right. Bulls, Wizards is not. Pacers, Nets is not. 76ers, Rockets is weird. Joel Embiid is out for the season. Lakers, Warriors, late night. So Prime Video's got your NBA coverage tonight if you're looking at a stream. Some interesting stuff today. I talked about with Sean during Crosstalk about the impending, well, maybe, legislation concerning the transfer portal in college football. Conversation turned into, look, it's irrelevant. It's sports talk, so we can just have fun with hypotheticals. But what would the University of Utah prefer? Transfer portal options or the way it once was? Because we talked about how the program was built on the backs of recruits that weren't very highly thought of that stayed at Utah and developed over the course of 3-4 years. So we'll get to some college football storylines. The college basketball transfer portal has caused chaos. Give you an update for Utah BYU. Looks like Rob Wright III is gone. Going to cash in his third school in 3 years. A new piece of information that we touched on yesterday with our friend Matt Brown. University of Utah is expected to name Matt Webb, who is the former VP of corporate sponsorships for both the Saints and the Pelicans, as the CEO of Utah Brand Initiatives. Utah Brand Initiatives is the new company that's being formed for the partnership to be finalized with the private equity firm Ocho Capital and the university's foundation, which will then help run Ute Athletics. That has to indicate a deal is being finalized. We should hear more in the coming days, coming weeks, coming months, hopefully days. So we'll get to some of those topics on the program today. First guest, Spencer Nelson, our buddy from Utah State. Got to know Ben Jacobson this week. He joined the show. Seemed like a really bright guy, the new Utah State coach. We'll talk college basketball transfer portal. We'll kick the tires with Spencer on that. Your NBA Daily Assist with our guy Dave McMiniman on the program today. I'm sure he'll be covering Warriors and Celtics tonight. And our friend Sarah Todd from the from the Deseret News covers the Utah Jazz. Fills in on this show occasionally when I leave. Then we'll do a little sports court with our friends Garrett and Preston Handy from the law firm of Handy and Handy. Spencer Nelson, Dave McMiniman, Sarah Todd, little sports court, me, Spence Checketts. All of you, the great listeners, and football guy Porter Larson. Look, it's an irrelevant debate because the reality is what's in front of us. But I thought it was interesting to consider, and it's not entirely fair to use this window as an example because this window featured a head coach leaving for one of the premier jobs in the country, taking 5 excellent players and your best recruit. But now that we have 5 years of data, do we prefer the transfer portal or do we still wish it was the way that it once was?
I don't know that you prefer it, right? I think the chaos creates a frustration for coaches, a little bit more of a challenge for them in the offseason as far as the calendar goes and as far as all that goes. Obviously, the player movement is tough to track if you're a fan year to year. I don't know if you prefer it, but if you're asking if Utah winds up on the winning side or losing side, they've probably gained a little bit more in the transfer portal than they've lost. I know those aren't the same parameters, but Cam Rising was a transfer at one time or another, right? These are guys that came from all over the country, and Utah is so good at identifying talent. I think you should try to not get hung up on where it comes from. Transfer, high school, JUCO, wherever it may be. That's kind of their strong suit, especially Scally. So let them go get him.
Bottom line is, regardless of what you would prefer, the reality is what's in front of you. And we'll see if any of the guardrails are put in place prior to fall, as there are a lot of rumors about what's going to happen with the leadership of the world of college football. All right, we'll give you an update on the Masters throughout the course of our show today. Our first guest will be Spencer Nelson. We'll do a little college basketball. But before Spencer stops by, courtesy of our good friends at IFA Country Stores, it's time now for your opening tip. Any drive to the basket begins with the first step on the court. That's the ultimate power move. IFA's Step 1 crabgrass preventer and their lawn food is the first choice to give your yard the healthy, thick green look you admire. The neighbors will be green with envy. Shop IFA online at ifa.coop or stop neighborhood stores today. All right, on the local side of things, the Utah Mammoth are back at it tonight. They're taking on Nashville at the Delta Center. The Jazz will be off tonight. They're going to finish their home slate tomorrow against Memphis. They'll finish the regular season Sunday against L.A. And it looks like, as we kind of peruse through the standings, as we talked about this week, we're inching closer and closer to clinching scenarios for the Stanley Cup playoffs to make their way to Salt Lake City. So we got a 14-game Thursday tilt tonight, and it's not just the Mammoth ultimately making the playoffs. It's who will they play. And as of now, it is Edmonton, but with a handful of games left, there's still an opportunity for them to draw Anaheim or Vegas, okay? So it looks like, barring anything completely unforeseen, we're in a spot now where the Mammoth are very close to clinching the wild card 1 spot. They're not going to fall to wild card 2. There's no way they can move up. And this is an indicator, and I'll give Bill Armstrong a ton of credit, as the Mammoth sit on 88 points. Nashville, who's in town tonight, is right behind them, putting a little bit of urgency on tonight's match. So the Predators are on 84 points. Mammoth are on 88 points. And Bill Armstrong has basically told us what he thought would happen prior to the start of every single season. You know, last year, joined the show a couple times and alluded to the fact that they felt like they could knock on the door. They felt like they could potentially threaten to be a playoff team a year ago. But all of the messaging from the start of the season this year, quite frankly, if you go back to the offseason last year, even before the J.J. Peterka trade, the messaging was, okay, our build has now culminated into a team that we think can compete. And that's exactly what they've done. It's been a remarkable thing to watch them traverse a complicated season. Even though they are wild card 1, they have a net of plus 31. So they've scored 31 more goals than they've allowed, okay? So that would be 4th in the entire Western Conference. Colorado's the best team potentially in the league, not just in the West. Colorado's plus 93. The Stars are plus 48. Minnesota's plus 36. But the Mammoth have a better net than Edmonton, Vegas, or Anaheim. In fact, by far. Edmonton's net is plus 10. Vegas, their net is +8, and Anaheim's net is as I've talked about, looks like it's going to be Edmonton. But my sincere hope is that in the first round of the playoffs, the Mammoth would be able to match up with Anaheim because that is going to be their best chance to win a round. And the thing with the Stanley Cup playoffs is if you can get a little confidence, if you can get a little momentum, we see a team every year that's either a wild card or underseeded make a little bit of a run, sometimes all the way. Conference championship, Stanley Cup. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. So if the Mammoth are able to draw Anaheim in the first round, and if they win that series, you just don't know what's going to happen. You never know what could happen if you have a good young team that catches fire at the right time and they're able to get a good matchup in the playoffs and they're able to win a round. Then let's hold on for the ride. I believe, and I've said this on the radio program, I've also said this over on the TV side of things as I do that hockey show on Sunday nights. I can see them going to the Western Conference Finals. I'm not going to say anything beyond that because what is rare is a team that's never had a playoff experience advancing to the Stanley Cup playoffs and doing anything other than winning a round, maybe two. But I'll stretch my imagination to believe that this team can get into the Western Conference Finals. And here's what makes it somewhat exciting. So the Mammoth have been here for a few years. Okay, we've had hockey in our state for a few years now. And the conversation at the start was kind of like, okay, who's going to be the rival? We've got Vegas. We've got Colorado. Okay, we've got some other teams in the region, right? Well, one of these teams manifest themselves as a rival. Well, in pro hockey, maybe more than any other sport, your rival is determined not just by proximity and geography, but by playoff matchups. And if the Mammoth somehow, some way can get the right draw and win a series, win a round, and maybe even go to the Western Conference Finals, at some point, the Stanley Cup will have to go through Colorado. And that feels like the most natural rival, yes, based off of proximity and geography. But if we can start getting some playoff battles between Utah and Colorado, that's when the answer, who the rival is of the Utah Mammoth, will start to manifest itself here in the market. We'll get back to some of the stuff. We'll go over the slate tonight. We'll talk about some of the clinching scenarios for the Mammoth. But the college basketball transfer portal is open, and as you could expect, it is chaos. Spencer Nelson will join us right out of the gates on a Thursday show to break it all down right here on ESPN 700. Colin Chandler is in the transfer portal. Local kid from up north. Grew up a Utah fan and was going to play at BYU and then followed Mark Pope to Kentucky. The rumors are Colin Chandler's bride wants to come home to Utah. Really good player. Speaking of a really good player, back in the day and still, quite frankly, Spencer Nelson back on the drive. Do you play any more pickup ball? Are your 5-on-5 days over?
Completely done.
Yeah, same.
Completely done. But I will say this. I can't say completely done. 99% done. First year, I got a freshman. First year that I felt like he could go play with the guys at 6 a.m. at the church on Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Okay.
So in the summer, I went. And Spence, I'm sure you've had this experience. It was my first experience this summer. There is nothing funner than playing with your son.
Oh, for sure.
Actually playing 5-on-5 pickup and being on the team with him and getting him open for shots and finding him. And I had so much fun at 6 a.m. I'm horrible now, right? I mean, you can't move, you can't, but I can get people open and I can pass the ball still and I can do that. So no, but yeah, I'm not playing competitive anything anymore. Nothing competitive.
Yeah, there's nothing better than when your son is old enough, and I'll never forget so this will show you the difference between me and my old man. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. So first time I beat my dad in 1-on-1, I was 16 years old. Never forget it. Okay. I will never forget it. And because he's bigger than I am. You've met him. He's 6'5".
Yeah. He's tall. How tall is your dad?
He's 6'5". He's 6'5", and on a good day, I'm 6 feet, meaning I'm 5'11" mostly.
I was going to say 6'1" with the afro.
Yeah, indeed. Good pull. Shout out Fletch. But ultimately, I was faster than he was. So I would just go around him, lay it up, and if he stayed off, I'd shoot a three. So when I made the layup to beat him for the first time, he grabbed the basketball and drop kicked it into the backyard. Okay. And I went in the kitchen. I'm like, Mom. Awesome. And so I told my mom, I'm like, Mom, I just beat Dad. And she gave me a high five. She's like, good job. When my son beat me in 1-on-1 for the first time, I got emotional. I was proud of him because I never let him. I mean, when he was a kid, I wasn't blocking his shots on a Nerf hoop. But once he got bigger, I'm like, if you're going to beat me in 1-on-1, you're going to earn it. And he did. And it was a great moment. There's nothing better than being able to do that with your boy.
That's awesome. Awesome. So everyone go play pickup with your dad. I do like the intro. Colin Chandler's in the portal. I like the rumor his wife wants to come home. You just have sources everywhere. I like it.
Well, when you've been doing this long enough, people are just going to begrudgingly accept that they have no choice but to tell you things because you have a microphone in front of your face. But do you remember watching him play at all? Do you remember watching Colin play as a high school kid? He's a really good player.
Super talented high school kid. Came back from his mission. Had some big plays, at Kentucky. And, I mean, he has the chance to be a really, really good basketball player. He is a very good basketball player, so I don't want to say he has a chance. He is a very good basketball player. He has the chance to be really, really good. That'll be fascinating to see where he ends up. Has Rob Wright entered the portal yet? I saw reports yesterday from Borzello that he was going to, but I don't know if he's officially entered yet.
I believe he has entered, and the report I saw yesterday, and this is just a rumor, I'm not reporting anything, but something was floating around online that he's already accepted an offer to leave. The wording was he's about to cash in on his third different stop, but that's not official. I want to be very clear. That's just kind of something that's out there.
Yeah, and I had heard from reputable people, that his what do you call him? His party, his team was asking for a substantial pay increase, and I don't know if BYU wanted to go that direction, but someone's going to pay it, right? In this day and age, someone's going to pay it.
No, for sure.
If you look at what the kid from New Mexico is escaping my mind that was the starting point guard to get $3 million at UCLA, and Rob Wright, go get $4 or $5 million somewhere. Probably someone's going to pay it.
Yeah, I think if I remember, and Scott Drew was really upset about this. He went on record a couple of times. I think Rob signed to go back to Baylor for $1 million, and the reports are BYU went up to about 3, is what I understand.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the report I've heard, and I've heard from pretty good sources that that's an accurate number.
So we were debating to start the show on the football side of things, and it's just like a fun radio topic because ultimately it's a hypothetical and it's doesn't represent the reality of the thing. Because would you rather have the old system? And we were talking about Utah football where Witt just used to recruit 2 stars and keep them around for 4 years and develop them. Or would you rather have the current situation? But the reality is, regardless of what you would rather have, it is what we have in front of us. We just got the number for the national championship game. It's the highest rated national championship game in, I think, 8 years. So are you willing to say, and I know you're a bit of an old school guy, but do you feel like there's an angle here that NIL and transfer portal has actually been good for the actual product of college basketball?
Yeah, I think there's definitely an argument to be made there where you've got guys. I'll go back to Creighton because when Stephen went to Creighton, I followed Creighton really closely and was more involved in that situation. Ryan Kalkbrenner was a perfect example of that. He made more money by staying at Creighton than going and being a second-round draft pick in his senior year. And so there is a certain group of players. Rob Wright's the same type of thing, right? If he wasn't getting paid, he would probably have turned pro and been a second-round draft pick or undrafted and been trying to get a contract somewhere. There are a number of guys now that are making $500 or $1 million or $3 million that won't make that type of money professionally, right? Really good basketball players, especially at the college level, but are guys that would be second-round draft picks that'll make league minimum or go to Europe and make 150, 250, maybe 500,000 and have to work their way up, and probably most of them won't get to the $1 million threshold. So it keeps those guys around, which improves the product. I'm definitely, I'd go back to the old system, but at the same time, I'm watching all the games, right? A college football playoff. I was watching the championship. So regardless if they're making $5 million or $10 million or whatever the payroll is, I'm still watching it. So obviously it hasn't turned me off to the point. I do know a few people, but it's very small, and the numbers don't show it that it's turned off so many people that they aren't tuning in. Because they are. The numbers show people are tuning in, and it's a great product.
How long did you play overseas?
10 years.
10 years. Okay, so you're the perfect guy for this because the other thing that we're starting to notice, and as somebody who understands the, just the ecosystem over there of pro basketball players as well as anybody we could have on the show, we're also starting to notice a lot of international players electing not to stay and play at home, but coming over here to cash in and play some college basketball. Help us understand like the economic decisions that 18-year-old German kid has to make if Illinois calls him and offers him this as opposed to what he could get if he played pro basketball in Germany.
Yeah, it's great. Spring break, I took my kids back this last 10 days to some of the places in Europe where I played.
Nice.
And I had a blast doing it. And actually talked to a few agents, one of my old Italian agents, about this. And the European agents are trying to place kids in. There's much more money in college basketball, and there's a lot more teams than there is in Europe. And so if you've got an Italian kid who he's good, right? Then Reggio Emilia or Venice or one of those younger kind of mid-tier, higher tier maybe, but not quite Milano, is trying to sign him to a 5-year or a 7-year deal and get a couple years out of him and then sell him to a larger club. And what that deal looks like early on is maybe 20,000 or 30,000. If he's really good, maybe 50,000 euros. And by the end of his contract, maybe 100 to 150,000 euros. And the hope is, like I said, sell him after a few good years, sell him to his contract to a big team who will then sign him, for another 3-year or a 5-year deal that he's making low 6 figures. Or, like you said, or he can go to Illinois and make $500,000 in a year, or go to BYU, make $250,000, or if he's a really, really good European kid, maybe he makes $750 or seven figures to $1 million. So there, you are attracting. It's supply and demand economics, and the supply of money in college basketball is increasing substantially, and so you're going to be pulling players from all over the world to come and do it, which in one case, let's think about it, is really good for the product because you're getting good quality players. At the other side, you're thinking basketball development in America. Like most of those countries, not all of them, but most of those countries limit the number of Americans that can play on their professional teams, right? In Spain, you only get 2 Americans. Germany, you have to have 6 Germans. So they don't say you can't have this number of Americans, but they have a certain number of spots that have to be filled by Germans. It will be interesting to see if the NCAA does anything on that front, because you could have rosters with 8, 9, 10, 12. You could go straight foreign kids, right, and put a really good college basketball team together.
Did you ever have any experience playing in China at all?
I never went to China.
Okay.
I knew guys that went to China. China, you either were like super athletic big man or like a guard that could just score. So like Stephon Marbury, Jimmer Fredette, perfect for China, or like Marcus Hayslip or some other guys like that were just freaky athletes. Those were kind of the two guys, kind of mode of guys that did really well in China.
Give me a frame of reference for the level of competition over there. You know, because Jimmer obviously went over there and became a legend. I mean, there's a documentary about it. But you watch some of the games, and it's like no one's guarding him. And you know, like, respectfully, like what's the level of competition like in China compared to the other European countries?
Yeah, it's lower. So when you go EuroLeague, the next best league in the world to the NBA is the EuroLeague. And that's the top teams from each European country. And it's not every European country, you know, 3 or 4 teams from Spain, 2 teams from Greece, a couple teams from Turkey, right? And pick and choose. And NBA Europe is exploring that, and they'll pick the best of the best from the European teams to go on the NBA Europe side. China, one of the things that, like, Jimmer went to Europe, and he did good, but it wasn't the same. It wasn't as good of a fit for him because of the rules, right? China has NBA rules, so illegal defense, everything is wide open, but your level of talent is just dramatically lower on rosters. And so you've got some really good Americans, and then the best Chinese teams have some good Chinese players. But it's NBA rules with a wide open court, but without the freakish athleticism of all 5 players and the size and the skill and those types of things. So a guy like Jimmer, who is a phenomenal basketball player, I've got to make sure that this doesn't sound like a knock on him at all, because it's not. Jimmer was incredible, but it was a perfect situation where Jimmer in college could do what he did best with the ball in his hands, and in the pros, he just wasn't quite at that level to be able to do what he wanted to. And when he went to China, once again, it was that level of competition that allowed him to go and just dominate. And he did phenomenal over there.
He did. And, you know, I've kind of changed the way I view the term bust. And I can remember I had Dennis Lindsay on the show when he was here with the Jazz. And I was referencing, we were talking about college players who we thought were going to be really good NBA players. And I brought up Trajan Langdon. And I used the term like, I guess he was kind of a bust. And Dennis scolded me and told me about just the great career he had overseas and how much money he made and just really what a great basketball career actually looks like. And you're somebody who made a living for 10 years overseas. When you hear somebody say, okay, they didn't make it in the NBA, that means they're a bust. What comes to your mind?
I do. I smile just because perspective, right? I probably viewed it that way at some point, or the guy that says the dude at the end of the NBA bench that he sucks. You know, it's so relative to all of it. And, you know, guys, Trajan Langdon had a phenomenal career. Travis Hansen had a phenomenal career. J.C. Carroll had a phenomenal career. And it wasn't in the NBA. Could Trajan Langdon have stuck around? Like, you look at the NBA and there's 400 dudes and 150 of them are absolutely irreplaceable. Absolutely irreplaceable. There's no one like them in the world. They are that good. But then, honestly, Trajan Langdon was good enough to go be the 9th guy on an NBA roster. But at the same time, he was making millions in Europe on a team, CSKA Moscow, in a role that he got to play, dude. And he was so tough, and he was winning championships where, people in America probably didn't care as much about it or respect it as much about it. But after having done it, it's like, man, unbelievable what he accomplished. J.R. Holden, there's some great names of dudes that you would say, hey, he was a bust and ended up having really, really good careers. There's definitely busts out there, right? Like the dudes that didn't end up going to Europe or didn't do anything and ended up just being a top lottery pick and then faded away, Lenny Cook or even like a Michael Olowokandi type of thing. There's busts for sure. So, I mean, you got to call a spade, but there's a lot of dudes that people are like, oh, he didn't make it. He failed. And you're like, no, he actually had an incredible career, made a bunch of money and had a lot of success.
Did you ever have, now you're a smart guy, and so I'm sure you were very organized, and I think that's just who you are as a person. I can remember Britain complaining that you got a passport and he didn't. But you hear all these crazy stories about players that play overseas not getting paid on time or getting paid in weird ways, or, I want some Spencer Nelson stories. I know you got some.
Oh, so we were in Siena, and Montepaschi Siena was, during my career, was one of the best European clubs. They won EuroLeague 2 or 3 times. Guy named little point guard out of Clemson, Terrell McIntyre, started his career making $60,000 a year in Germany and ended his career, making millions in Siena. Like total success story. About 2 months to go in the season, we're playing EuroLeague, and then we get out of the EuroLeague, and we're at the top of the Italian league, and they call a meeting at the end of practice, and the head of the fan group wants to talk with us. And I was like, okay, I've never done this before, but okay, fine. And the guy's talking, but he's Italian, and so there's a translator. The team captain's translating, and I'm just kind of standing in the back next to a couple of my teammates. And they're talking and just, thanking us for our effort, what we're doing. And then I hear, and we understand you're not getting paid, but you're doing it anyway. Thanks so much, type of thing. And I kind of look up and I'm like, wait, what? And I talked to guy next to me is Josh Carter. I played at Texas A&M. I'm like, I'm getting paid. Are you still getting paid? And he's like, yeah, I got my check. And so I was like, this dude doesn't know what he's talking about. Thank you, but we're still, I didn't say it to him, but I'm thinking in my head, still getting paid. So like 2 days later, it comes out, the team has to declare bankruptcy. The president of the team, Minucci, has gotten arrested by the feds for money laundering and some other stuff. And the club goes into conservatorship during the season. And the guy comes in, and I end up getting my salary checks, but they don't come on time anymore because they have to wait for the gate and also TV money to be paid. And then there's like an order, and the court-appointed conservator guy that comes in to run the club, he has to collect all the money. And then the players, fortunately, we were the first ones to get paid out of the TV money and the gate. But literally, the team had gone into bankruptcy. So, yeah, that was a funny one. There's stories, right? There's so many stories. There's playing in tear gas-filled gyms in Greece because riots and Europe. It's such a unique experience, and I look back on it with such fondness because it was unique. But it was an awesome ride. But yeah, getting paid crazy ways. I remember one year, I got to be careful, but the team paid me in cash for like one lump sum payment, and I hadn't gotten an apartment yet. And so I slit my suitcase lining just a little tiny, and I lined because I didn't want to have just an envelope of money. And it was just such a weird situation. I didn't know how to deal with it. It was earlier on and stuff. And so I just lined my suitcase with cash. And that's what we lived off that year.
Jeez. Unbelievable.
You'd need to go to the grocery store and I'd reach my hand into the little slit in the suitcase that was hiding underneath the bed and pull out cash to go to the grocery store.
Wow. That is wild, man. Yeah, but great perspective. I mean, life is short. You might as well, have some interesting experiences. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the best.
Yeah.
Absolute best.
That's awesome.
I look back and it was cool to go back. It's been 11 years since I retired, and to go back to the clubs. One of the clubs, it was pretty funny. I was there on April Fool's Day, and so they announced that they had re-signed me.
Oh, nice.
And the doctor of the team, I guess in like the press release was like, even though he's 45 years old, he still passed his physical. And the doctor called the GM just yelling, like, I didn't approve this. I haven't even seen the guy. And the guy's like, chill out, dude. It's April Fool's Day.
Very nice. Hey, we had Ben Jacobson on the show this week. He stopped by and gave us about 20 minutes, the new head coach at Utah State. We talked about possibilities. Now that we know who it is, what's the Spencer Nelson reaction?
Yeah, I mean, great track record, proven winner, has run a really, really good program at Northern Iowa. And I think it's as good a hire as Cam could have done, to be able to pull a guy away that's been there for a really long time. I think he's paying him a good chunk of money, but I don't think he overpaid. Looking at what he got salary-wise and everything, it frees up some money from the Cincinnati buyout that they're going to have to pay for Calhoun. That allows us to go get players, and it's a really good sign that he was able to re-sign Templin and Mason. And now that the transfer portal, it's going to be interesting to see who he goes and picks up. I think I said this to you once already, but I think that's where Calhoun made a huge difference. Was he spent his money really wisely in the portal, and instead of overpaying, like a couple situations where I know guys were demanding this, he ended up splitting it and going to get two guys for the cost of one, and those two guys ended up performing really, really well. So that's a new challenge for college basketball players or college basketball coaches, and a lot of them have brought in GMs, but understanding how much money to pay dudes, because the transparency is not there, right? It's not NBA. You don't know, what Sam makes, what Donovan makes, what every single player makes. It's so transparent, so you know where the market is at. And in college basketball, it's not there. So you got to be really savvy if you're a college basketball coach to know where you're going to spend your money.
The Mason thing is huge. I mean, I felt like he had played his way into a potential big deal in a bigger conference, based off of how he performed last year. It's a big get to get that kid back, and it probably shows how much he loves it up there. Yeah,
I think it is. I mean, I'm sure they had to be in the ballpark, right? Like, a kid's not going to get offered three and take one. So this is me saying, and I'm glad I don't know. Candidly, I don't want to know some of this information. Ignorance is bliss. And I love Mason. Like, I recruited Mason, and it's great. But like I said, sometimes it's good just not to know. But I'm sure they were within the ballpark of what Mason knew his market or believed his market value was. And I think he recognizes he loves Utah State. He's from here. Everyone loves him here. And it's a huge, huge deal to get the Mountain West Conference Player of the Year coming back to your team.
You had referenced 4 players you wanted to see back. And I know Templin and Foslev are 2 of them. Remind me of the other 2 and any word on those 2.
So Perryman and Elamine, no, I have not heard. It's been crickets, but those would be 2 enormous gets. Elamine, 6'9", crazy athlete, really long, but can shoot it. One of the best three-point shooters on the team last year. Was up and down as a freshman, but really showed out in the 2 tournament games, and that scared me because obviously he could go get paid a good amount of money, but he has a high level. He's a pro, right? Like his ceiling is NBA level. And so he's a big one. And then Elijah Perryman, the point guard out of Oakland, San Francisco area, the Bay Area. Incredible feel, loves to distribute the ball, unselfish, can shoot it. So he's a weapon from the 3-point line, but really is a facilitator. And he would be an enormous get to have him coming back to be your starting point guard. So those are the 2 to keep your eye on. If Coach can bring those 2 back, then I'd say, man, he protected his team and guarded the fences really, really well.
Give me a thought before I set you loose as we are broadcasting a mile away from the Huntsman Center on this task that Alex has in front of him. Keanu Dawes, Terrence Brown, Seydou Traore, number of players in the transfer portal. It's hard to even know what the team's going to look like because it looks like the majority of the major contributors are all going to be gone. So once again, this is a reset for a team that didn't have a lot of traction a year ago. I think anybody who knows basketball, and I know you know Al, understands that Alex is a very smart basketball mind and a good man, so should fit the job. But it doesn't matter how smart you are or how nice you are. If you don't have good basketball players, you are not going to win basketball games. There's my analysis.
Yeah, 100%. You've got to have the horses. And in this day and age of college basketball, you have to have the funds in order to get the horses. And so Al's got an enormous task. We've talked about it before, and it's how do you get a fan base energized and excited about Utah basketball, right? It's there for football, and it's really flipped, right? Our days, Spence, late 90s, early 2000s, I mean, the excitement was around basketball. It was, the Final Four, and then the years after that, Sweet 16 and stuff like that. And football was struggling, and the tables have completely turned to where the excitement is football. And how do you get a university and a fan base to get excited about basketball again? And the answer is win, but you've got to have a level of support and excitement to even get the engagement and the resources to be able to win. And so it's an enormous task he's got ahead of him, but Al's, like you said, he's a great basketball mind. He's a really good dude, and he's someone that I'd never bet against. I don't know exactly what it turns into, but I would never bet against Alex Jensen. He's a fierce competitor, and if anyone can figure it out, I think it's him.
I wasn't going to share this publicly, but since you're on the show, I feel like I should let you know that I'm currently writing a book.
That doesn't surprise me. I'm excited about this book. Tell me why, or what's this book about?
Well, I decided that I'm fascinated with glue, so I'm going to write a book about glue.
Why glue, Spence? Why?
Well, I mean, I think it's a fascinating subject, but I have an issue because as of now, I'm stuck on the first chapter. Porter hates it. Porter hates it so much. He hates it so much.
I don't. Here's the thing about Porter, okay? And this is, I don't know if we should do this, Spence. I don't know if Porter will ever call me again, but I think, you know this, but do the listeners know what Porter loves more than anything?
I don't think so.
Well, I'll tell you what. You and I know Porter well enough. He loves spring more than anything. He gets so excited about spring that I don't know if you saw him when he walked in today. It was a little embarrassing that he was so excited about spring that he wet his plants. Let's go!
I think he liked that one. I think he liked that one. He gave you a nice, so that was a good one. Hey, we'll pull a Costanza and we'll go out on a high note, my friend. Be good. Thanks for the time, okay?
You're the best, Spence. Have a good one.
Spencer Nelson, Utah State hooper and purveyor of corny dad jokes. It's part
I'll
of the
give
bit.
it to you.
It's
I'll give it to you.
It's part of the bit now. We can't quit it now.
I need next time. I'm going to need you guys to up the game.
Okay.
It's gotta really hit.
All right. I'll do some research. We'll bring better dad jokes to the table next time Spencer joins us. He joins us today, courtesy of our good friends at Uinta Golf. Time now for your Uinta Golf PGA update. Swing into Uinta Golf for the new Titleist Scotty Cameron Phantom Putter. The new Phantom putters are precisely engineered to deliver softer feel, sharper distance control, and total confidence over every putt at Uinta Golf. Sam Burns, Rory McIlroy, 5 under par, carding 67s today. Kurt Kitayama, Jason Day, Patrick Reed all carded 69s. They're 3 under. Let's see. Justin Rose, 3 under through 12. Shane Lowry and Xander Schauffele are in the clubhouse at 2 under. That's 70. Bunch of really good players at 2 under par. Jordan Spieth, Gary Woodland, Scotty Scheffler. And then a group of good players at 1 under. This is an awesome leaderboard early on. Justin Thomas is up there. Adam Scott is up there. Tommy Fleetwood at 1 under as well. 90th playing of the Masters tournament at Augusta National Golf Club in Augusta, Georgia. 1 hour down, 3 hours to go. Dave McMiniman joins us coming up next on ESPN 700. Jazz are off tonight. Final home game of the season is tomorrow against Memphis. So we get to watch two teams trying to lose, out-duel each other down the stretch. Final game of the season for the Utah Jazz will be on Sunday in Los Angeles. Dave McMenamin is our guest on a Thursday. Are they making you go to the Lakers Jazz game, Dave?
Oh, yes. I will be there. A great Sunday in April spent watching one team try to lose and the other team try to not mess up, but potentially be an opportunity in front of them. There's still a chance the Lakers, despite this terrible week they've been through, that they end up the number 3 seed in the West.
Well, I mean, Bez and Bang had a career high the other night, if you want to dig into some Jazz topics.
I appreciate that.
John Conchar messed around.
Out in the court.
John Conchar messed around and got a triple-double, Dave. They did let New Orleans hang 156 on him, though.
We're having all sorts. Jericho Sims had a triple-double the other day. Luke Kennard had a triple-double, the first of his career for the Lakers. They're handing them out like cars at an Oprah studio. Kennedy
Chandler played 43 minutes against the Pelicans. I mean, like, what exactly are we doing here, Dave? Every single day on the show, pull up the scoreboard, and we do do we get two teams trying to win bit? And more often than not, half the games every night are either two teams trying to lose or one team trying to win, playing against the other team trying to lose.
Well, I think when we look back at this season, right, it became a national talking point when Adam Silver fined Indiana and fined Utah. It's only continued. It's gotten so out of hand that I think the anecdote that we'll take looking back at this year was teams were tanking so blatantly and so much across the board that this Kings investigation was a coach's ineptitude, where it was determined that Doug Christie didn't know the time score situation, intentionally fouled in order to give Golden State free throws, and ended up changing the outcome of that game down the stretch. He had to say, no, I wasn't doing that to tag. I was doing it because I actually didn't know what I was supposed to know. I didn't know. I thought we had a foul to give. Like, that's how crazy this thing has got. The league had to look into it. And the Kings and Christie were happy that they found that he was inept because otherwise they would have found out that he was tanking.
Oh, man. Is this, look, every week we talk about this, but of course, unless you want to talk about the Kennedy Chandler, Bez and Bang pick and roll, like, is this the last year you think we're going to deal with it on this level? Are you confident that Adam Silver and the league office understand what a comedy of errors this has been, and they're going to do the right thing, whatever that right thing is? And I don't have the answer.
I am confident. However, there's been 3 proposals that have been put out, and they're too kind of arcane to even give a quick synopsis of each one on this hit. But all 3 of them are still problematic in my eyes. And so I based on all the rhetoric that Adam has said, and also the actions of the fines, there will be changes. I'm not convinced, though, that the changes that they have discussed thus far will do enough to address it. I think it will just open up a different set of problems with the lottery system. And so, I had an executive today tell me that this has been such an embarrassment this year that I know that all the teams thought it was the lottery system that they'd be going into, and that's how they operated this season. But it's been such an embarrassment, they should throw out what the lottery system has been, even for this season, and just make it flat odds for all the 14 teams that don't make the playoffs, which obviously that's not going to happen. But it just is an example of how much teams are kind of fed up with where this thing has gotten.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I went down to the arena last week, got there as early as I could to talk to, as many people as I was able to, because this show ends at 6. Tip-off usually is at 7, so it's tough for me to get down there. And look,
dealing with Salt Lake traffic, just bumper to bumper.
Okay, calm down. I spent $180 on my haircut. All right, like, we get where you live. We know, Dave. But okay. I'm telling you, to a person, ticketing, marketing, front office, basketball people, business, they are all so over this. They are counting down the days till next season. This type of approach isn't just hard on fans who love the team and are waiting for them to get this type of approach, Dave. It wears on an entire organization, including ownership.
Yeah, I buy that. Now, I will completely absolve ownership, right? Because they had to sign off on the approach. You know, they're the ones that are hiring. You know, I would assume, I'm not reporting this, but I assume that Danny Ainge would be kind of the visionary of this approach over the last couple of years. So I'm not going to just be totally empathetic to ownership, but I do think that if the league had a better system in place, it would kind of save some of the owners from themselves from choosing to go this path.
Yeah, and look, I completely agree, and it's a calculated choice that you make. And I guess what I'd ask you is, and I'm sure what they would ask is, well, what do you want us to do, especially here? You know, where it's not just the Jazz don't sign free agents. It's also, look, we couldn't keep the white guy that likes to play video games at home after he's done playing NBA basketball. Gordon Hayward left. Like, you look down the list of players they've drafted and developed, they just haven't been able to retain. What is the roster construction reality like, Dave, when you're building a team in Salt Lake City or other markets like it?
Well, certainly you're going to have to either build through the draft or choose to stockpile draft picks in order to be able to get a guy who's undervalued in another market. And the marketing example, right? I think he was. I don't think anyone quite recognized his potential in Cleveland and Chicago, and the Jazz were essentially able to overpay in assets to get him there. Or you just got to kill it in the draft, and you also need to then get lucky the years when you choose to keep your pick and be in the draft that the pick lines up and being higher in the draft. Now, like I would say Ace Bailey, there was probably some disappointment where they landed in the draft based on, Cooper Flagg being above him, but maybe Ace Bailey's going to work. And you guys have Keontae George, who was in the teens or early teens. That looks like a great pick. If this year with kind of the four main horses at the top of the draft, if somehow through the pain of the season, the Jazz don't end up the top four pick, though, the entire process they've been through the last 3-4 years is going to feel pretty empty.
I had a guy down there tell me, and this is probably hyperbole, or they're just building up their guy. He said, I wouldn't trade Ace for the number one pick this year. I don't think I believe that, but those are the words that came out of his mouth.
Wow. Well, I mean, certainly kudos to Ace, because I've seen some of his box scores, and generally it seems like he's gotten better as the season's gone on. But that's high praise. There's a guy, AJ DeBanson, I think is going to be maybe a multi-time All-Star, potentially MVP, face of a franchise type of guy.
Saw AJ last night, State of Sport Awards. He, of course, played his college ball here, and then his family now lives here as well. And if they're listening, and I know that they are because they listen every day, as a guy that covers the league, I think he's going to be the number one pick. I think he should be the number one pick. I guess that depends on need or your calculation or what have you. I've asked my NBA guest this week, I want to get your take. The name of the team that pops up on the board as the number one team that's going to pick at the top, which team do they not want that to be, and why exactly is it Sacramento?
I mean, I will actually go along with that loaded question, but Sacramento, think about where they were, 3 seasons ago? They break a 16-year streak of not making the postseason. They have a stable coach. They have, a respected front office. They have an all-star in De'Aaron Fox, an all-star in Domantas Sabonis. Everything that's happened since then, it seems completely rudderless, including what we were talking about earlier in this hit about their head coach and Doug Christie making such a poor decision in a late game situation that literally the league thought tanking was going on. It's hard to look at that roster and say, okay, if I am AJ DeBansta, I want player X Y and Z to still be on my team 2 years from now. Like you'd be hard pressed to name many guys that would be a part of that conversation. So you're basically starting from scratch with a coach that hasn't acquitted himself too well thus far, and with a front office, Scott Perry, that's kind of had a few chances around the way, around his time in the league, and hasn't necessarily built like a full-fledged winner. So I agree with you. I don't think that would be a market that would thrill the NBA to have a player like Devanza there for the next 7 years.
Let me offer one more potential because, I'm a little bit older than you, Dave. Not that much because you're getting old. But, NBA fans of, I'll say, our age to make me feel better because I just had a birthday.
Okay.
Are used to. Okay.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't hear from you. I was bummed out. But we're used to the Chicago Bulls being something that the Chicago Bulls haven't been for a long time. And they just cleaned house. It's a weird roster. And, Reinsdorf gave a presser where he said, whoever I hire to run my basketball ops has to buy into my coach. And look, I know Billy Donovan a little bit. I like Billy Donovan a lot. But your statute of limitations on past success has to run out at some point. Like, what's the direction in Chicago right now?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the fact that Billy didn't take the UNC job when, there were reports that they were very much interested in him. And shortly thereafter, they made the decision to clear house with the front office. That leads me to believe that Bulls ownership, they feel like by him turning on UNC, that was like a tacit commitment to them to keep moving forward with them. And, when there are struggles, there's got to be a fall guy. And usually it does find that it falls on the desk of the head coach in the NBA. But in this case, it's going to be the front office. To me, all the signs look like they'd be moving forward with Billy Donovan with that next front office. However, we also do know that will change kind of the life cycle, whereas if the front office can't hire their guy coming in, well, the first move they make when they have another tough season, if the Bulls have another tough season, which one would guess that they would be, is that front office then gets to fire Billy. So it's just like kind of chicken and the egg, right? There's always that lever or maneuverability of the blame game that occurs when a franchise is struggling. And obviously, the Jaden Ivey situation was such a black eye for that organization that they felt they had to do it when they did it.
Based off of your knowledge of teams around the league, and I'll include the Jazz in this question, I'm not leading the witness here, but what do you think the best situation would be for AJ?
I mean, listen, I do think that there is a value in having in-market recognizability, even like the planting the seed of fandom where people, it's like being able to say you saw a big time band that plays in Coachella, you saw them play at a college bar before they hit it big. So like the fact that Jazz fans could say that they were watching all those BYU games, they saw the two-handed baseline reverse dunk he had in the NCAA tournament and rooting for him. Like, I think that's a great situation for him. But there are other good situations. Like, I mean, he ends up at Indiana, a team that made the finals a year ago, or 3/4 away from winning the championship.
Yeah.
With an excellent head coach in Rick Carlisle and a great first point guard, Tyrese Halliburton, and some other young pieces, like in the basketball crazed state. Like, I think that'd be a pretty good landing spot for him. I think Washington, the fact that they could pair him with like Trae Young and Anthony Davis and look around at the rest of the East and say, Philly's injured and, who knows what's happening in Milwaukee and, who knows what's happening with Cat and New York, and like, hey, we could put together a good year and all of a sudden we're right top 2-3 team with Chicago and Detroit. Like, that's an interesting conversation too. But I do think there is merit for the Jazz being a great landing spot for him.
Speaking of Philly, since you are a hometown boy, Embiid out again. How do they untangle this with the Paul? I mean, look, they've got a couple of really good young guards, so it's not like all is lost there. But what's the pathway forward in Philadelphia?
There's still so much money left on that deal for Embiid. I think it's still 3 full years at, average of $50 million a year. Now, Paul George has played really well since he came back from the suspension, and maybe there is more there. I mean, quite frankly, before the suspension and last year, he looked like, just that was a terrible person to bring in. But with VJ and Maxey, as you mentioned, a championship-proven head coach and Nick Nurse, it's not all is lost. I think it's just you're going to be susceptible to the whims of Embiid's body. You're not going to be able to get any assets back for him that could potentially. I don't think, quite frankly, teams would take on that risk. So unless you do a buyout situation, and if you're doing a buyout because he has multi-years left on this deal, you're probably going to have to stretch him after the buyout, and so there's still going to be dead money on your books from his time there. So it's just tough. Quite frankly, now if Embiid is right, and shortly before this appendicitis situation, he looked right. I mean, the night that him and Paul George came back, they dropped 160 points. They were setting the world on fire. He can be the best player in a playoff series, like everybody included. Full stop. He can be in a series that includes Nikola Jokic, or a series that includes Cade Cunningham or Jaylen Brown, or any Wemby, name it. Joel Embiid can be the best player in that playoff series. Are we actually going to have to see his body cooperate to show that? The gamble, I would suggest, is probably unlikely.
Help me understand what happened with the Austin Reeves MRI stuff with the Mavs and why the Lakers were potentially upset there. What exactly went down?
Yeah, so it's interesting. The Lakers had that terrible game in OKC a week ago. Luka, everyone knew right away the hamstring is something he had dealt with earlier in the year, that when he went down in the third quarter, he was going to be out and be out for a while. Austin reached for a long defensive rebound in the first half, kind of pulled his left side. He was limping around a little bit, went to the back for observation, came back in the game, ended up being the team's leading scorer. I mean, with 15 points because they got destroyed by OKC, but played 27 minutes. And it was he's going to get an MRI just to get it checked out. But the team flew from OKC to Dallas on Friday. Austin gets an initial MRI. It's inconclusive. So on Saturday, they have to do another MRI. The team's already frustrated by the situation that they're in. And JJ Redick kind of shoots from the hip and says, well, Dallas imaging messed up. And so we're still waiting on the second MRI result. Mavericks came back and said, it was not our problem. We did as we were instructed. We followed procedure. I asked JJ about the Mavs statement last game, and he said, I'm not going to go into it. They helped us out, and we got the image that we needed at the end of the day. So I don't really know the he said, she said of it all. But end of the day, it didn't really change anything. Austin Reeves is going to be out with this oblique, and unless the Lakers are able to make some sort of run, probably to the second round or maybe even to the conference finals, I doubt we'll see him in a Laker uniform again this year.
So, wasn't that long ago where LA was running off a nice little streak that led, talk shows to debate whether or not they should be included in the top tier of the conference. It feels like the top tier of the conference has 2 teams and 2 teams only. Maybe Denver has a case to be made because Nikola Jokic is Nikola Jokic. But what are you expecting the rest of the way now? The playoffs are almost here from the Lakers.
Yeah, listen, if they get if they get Houston, potentially they can get by them. But Houston's I think won 7 out of their last 8. But the Lakers do have the size to contend with some of the size of Houston, and theoretically, Luka Doncic, if this treatment in Spain works, he could shave a little bit off of the recovery time. Usually it's about a month. If he can somehow make that to be 3 weeks or 3.5 weeks even, he could be back by game 4 of the first round. Now, he will be out of rhythm, probably out of shape to some degree, losing his conditioning because you can't do much with a hamstring. But you could talk yourself into them winning that series, or maybe them winning that series against Minnesota if McDaniels and Anthony Edwards aren't at 100%. But then you're talking about going in to play either OKC in the second round, who's just completely obliterated them this year, or San Antonio, again, without Austin Reeves. I think you're just delaying the inevitability of you're going to lose in the second round. So, of course, it's better to be able to play to the second round than not. But I think the conversation in March was, hey, this team at full strength could give either the Thunder or San Antonio a real threat. I have a hard time seeing that now.
Since I kind of gently alluded to it, what are you willing to say about the potential of Denver against either OKC or San Antonio whenever that happens?
Yeah, we know they went 7 games last year with the Thunder, and one of those games blew a big lead, and that was a razor thin series. And Jokic is Jokic, and we saw that incredible shot he hit the other night against the Spurs. They're down 8 points with 3 minutes to go in regulation. They come back to win that game in overtime. So they are probably better than a dark horse candidate. The thing with Denver, they just haven't had a chance because of health to really build any sort of continuity this year. But maybe because 4 of their top 8 already won a championship together, that continuity isn't quite as needed because those guys have already played so many big games together.
Yeah. All right. Over to the East before I set you loose. Detroit probably has just earned the right for us to say the conference probably goes through them with the way they played without Cade. I think it's tremendously impressive. Maybe Joe Mazzulla wins Coach of the Year because there's still, I think, a very compelling case to be made for Boston. And then, in my opinion, there's a gap there. The Knicks they're too Jekyll and Hyde. Harden in the playoffs. I know the Hawks have been better as of late, but does the conference go through Detroit, and will Boston have something to say about it?
Detroit, interestingly enough, has had the Cavs number. They have not done as well against the Knicks or the Celtics. So I'm not so sure. I think kind of the 4 teams that you have to mention are Cleveland, New York, Boston, and Detroit, and they all kind of have a little bit of round robin of, I'm better at this team than that team. So kind of how that shakes out will determine it. I think all things being equal at full strength, I think Boston is the best team. So I understand, all the credit in the world to Detroit, especially the way they managed that time with Cade out with the lung issue, and Denise Jenkins comes out of nowhere, 2-way contract to be dropping 30 points on several occasions, incredible. And they're a great defensive team. I just think Boston has a deeper roster. Boston's been able to do this. Vucevic hasn't really played since they picked him up. They expect to have him back too. That's another 15-10 guy that you're able to bring in off the bench. I think Boston is the prohibitive favorite.
Last thing, are we going to see the 65-game thing? Are we going to see this schedule slashed to 65?
You mean the full season will be 65 games? Just
the regular season down to 65 games. Is that a real thing?
I'd be very surprised.
Yeah.
It's been pushed by influential people, quite frankly, 72 games for 15 years now, and nothing's changed. So I'd be surprised. I would love to be pleasantly surprised. I do think 72 is where it should be.
Yeah.
You maintain the integrity of it. It still should be a battle of attrition. It's not meant to be like football where you play 1 game a week. That it's hard to win a championship. That's why you have to be smart about every one of the 18 guys you have on your roster, including 2-ways. That's part of the deal. However, I do think you can improve their product by having less nights where guys are resting, because it's a 4 games in 5 night scenario. Like, if you can cut out 10 of those scenarios a year for each team, the product's going to be better.
All right, buddy. Well, enjoy Kobe Buffkin guarding Bez and Bang on Sunday night, and we'll expect a full breakdown next week, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Spence.
Dave McMenamin covers the NBA for ESPN at MC10 is where you find him. Stops by today, courtesy of our friends at Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater. Muse is coming to the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on August 20th. Tune in to OC at noon for your chance to score some tickets. Sarah Todd's going to stop by a little bit later on. We also have Sports Court. We will catch a quick break. Let's revisit that transfer portal story. There's some rumors circulating. Rumor that Colin Chandler is landing in Provo to play for BYU. So we'll give you some up-to-date stuff on the college basketball transfer portal for our local teams coming up on the other side of a quick break on a Thursday edition of The Drive right here on ESPN 700. Sam Burns and Rory McIlroy are your leaders as of now. 90th playing of the Masters tournament at Augusta National Golf Club in Augusta, Georgia. 5 under par for those two. Justin Rose just bogeyed 14. He dropped back to 3 under. No golfers at 4 under as of now. No Tony Finau in the field, unfortunately. He was in the final group back in 2019 with someone named Eldrick Tiger Woods. Give you some notables here. Xander Schauffele, 2 under, as is Shane Lowry. Patrick Reed, 3 under. Not a good day for the other live guys, though. Bryson DeChambeau, that goob. Bad day for him. John Rahm was all over the place as well. 6 over for John Rahm. 4 over for Bryson DeChambeau. So Freddie Couples beating both those live guys. Jordan Spieth has looked pretty good. He also bogeyed 14. He's at 1 under par. Scotty Scheffler is 2 under through 12, as is Gary Woodland. Those two are playing together. So, Masters tournament going on. We'll kind of keep you up to date as we go throughout the show today. And speaking of the Masters, how about we give away a little golf? Time now for the ESPN 700 Festival of Tees. It's powered by the Utah Golf Association. We're giving away rounds of golf to the best courses in the state. Listen to the OC show from 11 to 2 and this little radio program from 2 to 6 for a chance to win each day from ESPN 700. Details can be found on ESPN700sports.com. Text now to win 877-353-0700. Sending you to one of our little gems out this way. That's Glendale Golf Course. Give me your pick for the Masters at 877-353-0700. That's 877-353-0700. We'll send you to play golf at Glendale. All right, some good stuff earlier from Spencer Nelson. Talked a little college basketball transfer portal. Interesting conversation about the current landscape of college basketball. We do have the ratings for Michigan's national championship win over UConn. Most watched final in 7 years. So big number there. The Big Ten pocketed $69.4 million in NCAA tournament revenue. You know, ultimately, well, we know that college football moves the needle, period, end of story. Well, college basketball still does because of this time of year, and that's almost it. It's not consumed the way that it used to be. But as a result of the big money that's brought in with the NCAA tournament, and especially, and we talk about this all the time, it's wild to consider that it's been 10 years since Utah basketball has made an NCAA tournament appearance. And that's an issue as it pertains to revenue left on the table that could really benefit your program and benefit the entire academic and athletic departments just with the money you're able to make if you can make the NCAA tournament, period. But if you can go to Final Fours, if you can win games in the NCAA tournament, it improves your bottom line. As we're seeing with the Big Ten nearly raking in $70 million, they had 2 Final Four teams. And, of course, the team that won the national championship, the Michigan Wolverines. No news today concerning Utah basketball and the transfer portal stuff there. Sidhu Traore joined Terrence Brown and Keanu Dawes in the transfer portal. Robert Wright III is transferring from BYU. He had a really good year for BYU last year. Now, just a reminder, and this is how it works on the football side of things too. Starting yesterday, players had a 15-day window to enter their names. Starting the day after the national championship game, my bad. 15-day window after the final game of the season where you have the option to enter your names. And just a quick rundown of kind of how this works. You can enter and exit the portal during the 15-day window. Players don't need to choose their next school or withdraw from the portal during the 15-day period. They just have to be in the portal within the window in order to transfer. Following a head coaching change, a 15-day period will open 5 days after the new coach is hired. If no new coach is announced within 30 days and the transfer window is already closed, a 15-day window will open on the 31st day for players from that school. So, obviously Utah State hires a new coach. Jared Calhoun takes off to Cincinnati. Ben Jacobson is able to convince Mason Falslev and Carson Templin to stick around. But the Rob Wright thing, in addition to A.J. DeBonsa taking off for the NBA, I mean, BYU at this point looks to be honing in on Colin Chandler. And that's kind of a story that shouldn't surprise a lot of people around here. I mean, Colin was going to play at BYU, but he committed to play for Mark Pope. And, Mark takes the Kentucky job. And Kentucky basketball, I mean, Big Blue Nation, that as a college basketball institution, they're as flush with resources as maybe anybody outside of, like the Carolinas and the Dukes, and maybe even including them. So the walking line was Colin wanted to play for Mark, but he also got paid by Kentucky to go spend a year there. Colin's a really good player. And I think Spencer Nelson alluded to this a little bit earlier. Was he developing under Mark Pope at Kentucky the way that he wanted to in order to fulfill what he has talked about quite a bit, and that is his dream of playing in the NBA? And we can say what we want about what happened this year with BYU basketball. It, needs to be under the context and the prism of all the injuries they suffered. What Kevin Young has been able to do over the course of his couple of years here now with BYU is recruit elite talent that has NBA potential and fulfill that potential by sending them on to the pros. It was Yegor Demin a year ago, and it was A.J. DeBonsa this year. So you have to wonder if Colin Chandler is looking at what happened over the past couple of years with A.J. and Yegor, and then deciding that maybe it's better for him to go to a place where the coach can clearly develop pros. I'm not saying Mark can't. The other rumor out there is that Colin Chandler's bride wants to come back and live in Utah, wants to come back and live in her home state. Nothing official as of now, as far as the storyline surrounding Colin Chandler, but just a tremendous amount of rumors that BYU will be the landing spot for him. One of the things, I think it was Josh Grant who joined our show a few weeks ago. I think for Alex and Utah basketball, and again, there has been nothing official announced as far as, addition of talent as of now. Rumors out there, there's some lists that are circulating. To be able to get back into the mix for Utah basketball when there's a really, really good local player, because as of late, the majority of the best local players in our state as of late have either gone to BYU or they've gone out of state. Colin Chandler grew up as a Utah fan. And there were some rumors early on that maybe he was looking to play at Utah, but that never came to fruition. Of course, Chris Burgess was up here for a while before he went back down to be Kevin Young's assistant coach. A lot of people thought Colin might be close to Burgess, but ultimately he wanted to play for Mark, who went to Kentucky. But if you're Alex Jensen, and it's a tough thing to do because Utah basketball has been on life support for quite some time, you got to find a way to lock in some of these local kids that want to stay in state and want to play in Salt Lake City instead of letting them, kind of slip out of your grasp and head down to Provo or out of state elsewhere. It's one of the things that Witt and now Morgan have always done really, really well. And our footprint in football in this state certainly has improved tremendously over the course of the past 2 decades. So you're always going to lose a player to Oregon or a Jackson Dart to SC, and then obviously Ole Miss. You're going to lose some of these big time guys to other schools that are not necessarily in the state, because the talent that we have here is a lot bigger and brighter than it used to be. But Witt and Morgan did a pretty damn good job of convincing a lot of really good local players just to stay here and play in their backyard. And you're always going to lose some to BYU. I mean, that's the deal when it comes to the local ecosystem, and some kids are just born and raised big BYU fans and want that experience for whatever that's worth. So they're going to head there, and maybe they're just raised and kind of groomed to believe that's where they need to be. There's nothing you can do about that. And, BYU football currently is in the spot where they've been able to build up this brand that's a little bit more appealing than it was under Bronco Mendenhall or Gary Croton. Before that, Kalani's just done a really good job, and they have a tremendous amount of economic support where they can write checks that maybe some schools can't. But the local recruiting footprint, as Josh Grant said on the show, Alex Jensen needs to go find himself 5 Alex Jensens. Certainly easier said than done. But the really good players that want to stay here, that play their high school ball, their prep ball, their AAU ball here in Utah, Alex has got to find a way to make Utah that destination. I'm sure it takes a lot of, cultivating good relationships with local high school coaches, local AAU coaches. You also have to find a way to do what Kalani has done down at BYU and make that brand a little bit more appealing to young people than I would just say Utah basketball is right now. It's a tough sell. And it looks like, as a result of the players that have already entered the portal, more or less, this is going to be a scenario where it's a brand new cast of players again next year, for the most part. Now, we don't know that because the transfer portal has been open for a handful of days. And up until we start hearing the news spill in about whether or not, there's going to be some talent additions made, whether it's here in state, across the landscape of the country, or overseas. Coach Schiller, with tremendous relationships overseas, one of the kind of the ace in the hole up on that staff. It's impossible to analyze what we're going to see next year, but now that the college basketball transfer portal is open, this is the time to prove that last year was a bit of an anomaly concerning the talent on the field, or on the court, is what I should say. That, to me, was what stood out like a sore thumb. I mean, if you watched Utah basketball last year, how many nights were you watching? And you looked at the team on the other side of the floor and you said to yourself, Utah is a more talented team than the team who they're playing right now. Some non-con examples of that, but in conference play, the answer may have been never, not one time. And I don't care how smart you are as a basketball mind. I don't care how kind you are as a person or what sort of leader you are to be able to lead young men. If you don't have even approaching close to the same talent, let alone a couple nights watching, it's like the top 6 players in this game play for the other team. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Terrence Brown, who's in the transfer portal, who probably earned himself a nice little deal elsewhere. But if we're honest, we didn't see the growth. We didn't see the development. We didn't see the improvement. There was the road trip where, they beat West Virginia. They played UCF tough, but not in this for a playing the other team tough narrative. Like, you got to compete next year in conference on a much higher level you did this year. Is it reasonable to expect Utah basketball to win the Big 12 next year or make the NCAA tournament next year? No, that's not a reasonable expectation. But it's only fair to expect a lot more than what we saw this year. I don't think there's anything wrong with putting that level of expectation on the basketball program. Under a guy who's a really, really smart coach, really good man, who has all the things you need to be a great coach, besides one thing, and that's the most important thing, and that is good basketball players. 2 conference wins. TCU at home, on the road to West Virginia. Just not good enough. Not in this conference. Not in this basketball conference. I mean, maybe the Big Ten answered the question we had all year as far as who's the best basketball conference in America. I mean, the Big Ten had 2 Final Four teams. And, of course, they had the team that won the national championship. So were we overestimating the Big 12? Well, I certainly did in my bracket. I can tell you that much. And I think it's fair to say that the Big 12 underperformed from a macro standpoint in conference play, in NCAA tournament play. Arizona made a Final Four. And anytime you make a Final Four, if you're one of the Final Four teams standing, it's impossible to say that that's a failure of a season. But they got smoked. They got trounced by a really good team, obviously the team that won the national championship. But UConn was able to give Michigan at least a battle. Arizona could not. Houston went out much earlier than I thought. Iowa State hurt. Kansas, I think, summarily a disappointing season across the board. Texas Tech with some injuries. BYU loses in the first round. Just overall a pretty disappointing NCAA tournament appearance and performance from the Big 12 basketball teams that made the conference, made the tournament. So, portal is open. No new news with Utah basketball as of today. But Rob Wright III reportedly is not coming back to BYU. Could that change? Of course it could. But everything I'm reading is he's expected to cash in another big deal for his third school in 3 years. AJ DeBonsa is now making his way to the NBA. He's not coming back. Okay, let's just get that out of the way. I know there have been some conversations he's had publicly where he's kind of talked about needing to talk to his mom. I'm quite sure everyone involved with the DeBonsa camp is ready to see this young man go be the number one overall pick in the draft. If there was some sort of debate about whether or not he was going to be number one or whether or not he was a top 5 guy, maybe entertain the possibility, because I'm sure if AJ went down to the Collective down in Provo and said, I want to come back, they would rally to get a $10 million deal for him. But when you're going to be the number one overall pick, you don't think about it. It's a once-in-a-generation opportunity for yourself and your family. So Colin Chandler looks like he is headed to Provo as a potential replacement. And they got the Bruce Branch kid, who's a really good player. Watched him in the McDonald's All-American game last week. But Rob Wright, A.J. DeBonsa, of course, Richie Saunders moving on. A lot of talent needs to be replaced down in Provo. They do have the proof of concept so far by being able to attract pro players and send them to the NBA. And we're still in the early days of the rebuild here in Salt Lake under Alex Jensen. So they are considering some legislation that would give you a one-time free transfer and 5 years of eligibility after your 19th birthday. For BYU fans panicking, there's an exception for church missions, some other small exceptions as well. But that at least would eliminate the year over year guys coming and going at all times. I think it's fair to say we can all agree that has to stop. There's some other things that we can debate about, pay for play, students, student athletes being employees, NIL regulations, rev share decisions. There are nuance there and layers and levels there, but does anyone really believe the best thing for the teams, the best thing for the schools, the best thing for the product is allowing players to leave and go play somewhere else every single year? It is the only ecosystem in sports that has free agency every year. That's why they need to sign contracts, which we've been talking about on this show for a number of years. All right, we got 2 hours down on this Thursday. We got 2 hours to go. We're going to bring in Sarah Todd, then we'll do a little sports court coming up in the 4. Then we'll get to the final hour of the program and say goodnight at 6. Beautiful Thursday. It's good to have you with us on ESPN 700. Masters going on right now, 90th playing of the Masters tournament at Augusta National in Augusta, Georgia. Give you a leaderboard update coming up in just a little bit. Sam Burns and Rory McIlroy, who has not played competitive golf in over a month. Last time we saw Rory at Augusta, he was on his knees in tears after capturing the career Grand Slam. They're both at 5 under par. Justin Rose is at 4 under par. He just birdied 15. That dude just does not age. Kurt Kitayama, Jason Day, and Patrick Reed all at 3 under. No Tony Finau, which is always a bummer. Local guy didn't make it in this year. Hope for better things ahead for Tony. But if you are a golfer and you want to do something really fun in Salt Lake, got to tell you about this new spot. It's called Rounds Putt Lounge, okay? New partner of ESPN 700. They're sponsoring our Masters tournament coverage. Not your average putt-putt. We're talking a fully indoor tech-powered course with automated scoring, interactive gameplay, and leaderboard bragging rights. Bring your friends, bring a date, bring your coworkers, bring the whole crew. Because whether you're competitive or just here for fun, everyone can jump in and play at their own pace, and it doesn't stop at golf. Full arcade, great food like pizzas and shareables, and even event spaces perfect for birthdays, team outings, corporate events, or just an epic night out. And here's the kicker. Rounds start at just $12 with discounted rematches if you're ready for revenge. So whether it's date night or game night, make it around at Rounds Putt Lounge. Book now at roundsputtlounge.com and get in the game. Jazz are going to wrap up their home slate for the season tomorrow night against Memphis. And then the final game of the season is Sunday against the Lakers. Our next guest covers the Jazz for the Deseret News and joins us from time to time. Happy Thursday, Sarah Todd. How are you?
Happy Thursday. I'm good. I took a little break. I went down to southern Utah, and I'm back to close out this great American nightmare.
Well said. That's exactly what it is. What does Sarah Todd do in southern Utah? What are the activities?
Well, I have been having a bit of a hip problem, so there weren't too many actual physical activities. But while everyone else hikes, Sarah Todd reads and watches TV and doesn't talk to anyone.
That sounds like a dream, to be honest. It sounds like a good little break. Not going to lie.
I mean, I wouldn't call myself an antisocial person exactly. I'm more like an extroverted introvert. But, man, when I get time to just nap repeatedly, read, watch TV, binge, and just don't have to answer to a soul, I think that is literally my favorite thing in the world.
Is there a show right now that you're watching, that you're binging?
I was binging The Pit. I just got into it for the first time, and I like it. It's great.
Are you telling the truth? Because I feel like people, when you come across somebody that's watching The Pit, suddenly you're in for an hour explanation. It's like they're doing CrossFit or they're selling you religion. They love the show. Is it as advertised?
Yeah, I was saying the same thing. I really lowered my expectations because of how much it had been hyped up to me. But I think listen, if you were a fan of shows like ER, if you liked Grey's Anatomy, I'd say that it's kind of it's a little bit in between both of those shows. It's not as much drama or soap opera as Grey's, but it's also not as, I would say, 90s kitschy as ER was either. It's like a great procedural, and the cast is great. So if you like sort of a medical procedural, you're going to love it.
What's your favorite TV show of all time?
Oh, man, that is a great question. I loved early Arrested Development.
Nice.
I thought that was a perfect television show. Mm-hmm. I'm also a really big fan. If we can go back even farther, Cheers was a perfect television show.
Nice.
I like a comedy more than I do a drama. And so even though there are dramas that I've really, really loved, I think that the comedies are probably the better ones. So I would lean that way for maybe a longer one and more recent. I love Righteous Gemstones.
Nice.
That was great.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm probably not the greatest person to ask about maybe longer, more thoughtful dramas.
Anything Danny McBride does, I'll give a shot. There's
100%.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. All right, let's talk Jazz.
Okay, do we have to?
I mean, look, like, this is the deal. This is the thing. Like, when football season ends and the Jazz are unserious, we have 6 months of just talking about our favorite TV shows. Is there anything interesting about the final 2 games?
It's fan appreciation night.
Nice.
But there's if you want to get merch, if you want to get Ace Bailey stuff, Lowry Marketing stuff, there's gonna be a bunch of like 50% off stuff at the team store. They're gonna be giving away stuff to fans during the game, and so like there's some cool stuff that'll happen in that way. I'm sure that there's gonna be like shout outs from the players and stuff, and the whole team will be there. As far as intrigue, I'm sorry to say that is probably not going to be anything that we can really be paying attention to. And it has me thinking kind of even more so these last couple of days. What I'm thinking about is like what the roster is going to look like next year. And so much of the last couple of years has been about these guys, Bryce, Flip, Cody, Isaiah, all of those young guys. And the more and more that we're getting closer to this being over, the more and more I'm thinking, like, is there even room for any of them on this roster? Because if we get down past the starting 5, where we assume it's Jaren, Lowry, Walker, Ace, Keontae, there's also going to be the incoming rookie, which the Jazz are going to hope is going to be great and be a part of the rotation and be a player that is meaningful. So that's 6 players. I would be shocked if John Conchar and Steve Mikhailuk were not on this roster, and I would be shocked if Will Hardy didn't want to use them regularly, because both of those guys are legit NBA players, and both of them are well respected and liked throughout the organization, including by Will Hardy. That would put us at 8 players. There's going to be some sort of backup center, whether that's Yusuf Nurkic, whether that's somebody else coming in. That would be 9 players. So we're at a 9-man rotation without ever mentioning any of those young guys.
Huh.
And so that's kind of what I'm thinking about a lot lately, is like, where is it that any of them will fit in? And if not, which ones will kind of maybe stick around with hopes that they could turn into something more down the line?
What are reasonable expectations for Nurk after the offseason recovery process of a deviated septum?
It's troubling, but he's going to be absolutely fine. All jokes aside and everything. I mean, Kyle Filipowski plays with a deviated septum. He's fine. It was a surgery that was necessary because of timing, if we can even say it that way without sounding too ridiculous. Nurk is interesting as the roster goes, because he really did play well, and I think that he was so shocked that after a couple of really kind of disgruntled years in the NBA that he came to a situation on a tanking team where he found like real enjoyment, and he felt like the people appreciated him and that he got along with people, and he loved it here more than he ever expected to. And so he would be really, really happy if they wanted to re-sign him, and if it made sense and the agents and everything can get that all worked out. Like, he really does want to be back here. And so, he's talked about it throughout the entire season, and I've had many conversations with him about it, and I think that would be a really interesting person and a really good person, honestly, to have as your backup center if you are able to still get the whole Walker Kessler thing figured out. Again, though, right? Like, we're talking about guys that are not playing these last couple of games of the season. Like, that's where the sort of intrigue and everything of the season is where does this go and who's on the roster next year.
So I've got the numbers in front of me. I mean, Collier, Sensabaugh, Filipowski, you mentioned Mikhailuk, Cody, they're all under contract. They're all right. So, like, if they're not going to be on this team, they're going to have to figure something else out, because you do have to round out. You do have to round out a roster. when you're paying, Lowry and Jaren Jackson Jr. what you're paying them. You could do worse, I guess. And now we're talking about the end of the bench next year. I cannot wait for the season to be over. Just rounding out your roster with cheap young players is a pretty common practice, yeah?
Yeah, and that's the thing is and that's what I'm saying is not that there's not room on the roster for them, like with legitimate spots and contracts, but there's not room, like if you're going to be, if you want to play them, then you end up playing like a 12-man roster throughout the regular season,
for
right?
sure,
So
yeah.
There's certainly room for them. I'm sure that the Jazz are going to try and tinker around on the edges of the roster and make some moves. Maybe a couple of those guys end up being throw-ins for somebody else who might be maybe a bigger rotational player, or maybe that's how they get a backup center. There could be ways that they either leave or stay on the roster. And you're exactly right. Like using those cheap contracts while they're cheap can be really useful, and it also, builds in a buffer window of a year or two where they can still kind of see is there a little bit more of untapped potential there.
But we're not going to see Bezin Bang play 48 minutes and Kennedy Chandler play 43 minutes when a team is actually serious about competing. So, the question is, how many of them are in the rotation, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. You referenced something about, Nurkic being surprised that he liked it here. You are a transplant. You've been here for a while now. So you know the deal where we just want you to tell us you like us because so many people tell us they don't, okay?
Right.
So as someone who's been in other markets covering the league in Philly and in the Bay Area, the scale of players seem to like it here on one side with Nurkic and Marketing or whatever, and nobody likes us on the other side. Where's the real stuff? What's the real narrative around the NBA?
Right. Well, I think, there's a lot of very specific context, right? Because if you're comparing Salt Lake City to just other cities in general, blanket statement, there's bars and there's great places to eat, and we're not talking about the dark ages when you couldn't buy a beer somewhere. So there's kind of haha rubbing elbows jokes that are made about Utah, but that's not what people are talking about. But if you do want to talk about it in context of maybe some of the other major metro areas in the country where there are larger fine dining establishments, where there are bigger nightclubs, where the population is bigger, we're talking about guys that are in their early 20s for the most part who are multimillionaires. And so when you look at the nightlife, quote unquote, whether or not it's good or bad here for your average person, it is different here for an NBA player than it is in Los Angeles, New York, Miami, even places like Philadelphia or the Bay Area, right? And so it is different. And there are certain NBA players where that matters to them. But there are a lot of people, and especially some of the more veteran players in the NBA who they've either heard the jokes or they've heard almost nothing about Utah because it's not one of the places that people really talk about. Outside of nightlife, large scale fine dining, that sort of stuff, ultra Uber shopping and designer studio houses, that kind of stuff. The other things that players care about are actually really team oriented stuff. What's the practice facility like? How far is it away from where I'm going to live? What's the housing market like? What are the investment opportunities like? All of that stuff goes into what makes a player happy. And so for guys like Kevin Love and for Jusuf Nurkic, who had heard a lot of stuff about the Jazz but had never really experienced what it was like to be here or be around the team, when they got here, they were like, man, this is great. They've got chefs on site at the practice facility. The team completely caters to them. Anything they need, they've got. It's really, really well run. Anybody who can talk about Ryan Smith and can say anything about him, as a businessman, as a person, whatever, all of that to the side, what I will say absolutely 100% as an NBA owner, Ryan Smith has done a very good job of making players feel like they found something special when they get here to the team, because it is so catered to them, and they are treated top notch with state of the art everything. And so those things really matter, and especially for guys who are not the youngest guys in the league and are looking for some stability when they get here and they're like, man, everything is great. Everything is close. We're close to the airport. I mean, it's, not something that's talked about a lot kind of casually among NBA fans, but like players hate going to Denver because the ride from the airport to downtown Denver is so long. So like that's one of like the most hated places on the NBA schedule, purely just because the ride is too long. And so little stuff like that really matters. And that's one of the reasons that someone like Nurk or someone like Kevin Love, they really like it here because they've found everything to be so accommodating and so easy. And then on top of that, everybody within the organization, it seems like they're really, really invested and that they like care about people. And Will Hardy is a huge part of that. Guys like Will. And so that kind of word is going to travel through the NBA, and that's really going to matter for when you're talking about trades and free agency and stuff. Is like kind of getting that word out. Like not only is it a great place, like team wise, but like, man, Will's great to work for.
You've lived in extremely inconvenient places. I grew up in an extremely inconvenient place. There are very few places in America that are more convenient than Salt Lake City. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's great. It makes me think so often about, I mean, growing up, my closest airport to get to like a major airport, it was an hour and a half away when I was younger. And so then, like, as an adult, living closer to airports has been something that's so, so important to me. And you don't realize how much of a luxury that is until maybe you, like, travel a lot or you're looking to go somewhere and, like, trying to plan out time. And in addition to that, it's just, like, how if you're talking about, like, a suburb community even of Salt Lake or any other major city, how easy is it for you to just like pop out and get what you need? And Salt Lake City is one of the places that's really, really easy to do that. You can pop out and get whatever you need. You don't have issues finding parking. Like it is very, very convenient as far as large cities go.
Do you DoorDash?
Oh, come on. Yeah, of course I do.
Do you have groceries delivered to the house?
No, see, I was actually having this conversation with friends not too long ago. Like, in Salt Lake, I usually will use DoorDash but do pickup instead of delivery because it is so easy to just go and pick up stuff in Salt Lake. I won't have my groceries delivered to me, but I'm not opposed to having them delivered to my car because I hate going inside of a grocery store. Now, luckily, now I'm married and my husband knows my absolute disdain for the grocery store, and he does the bulk of it, which is why he's an absolutely perfect angel. But, man, when I'm on the road, I'll DoorDash to a hotel 5 nights out of 5 if I can.
Shout out, Colin. And I don't as much as I used to. Because, look, there is something where, like, did I just pay $38 for a chicken burrito? But
yeah, but sometimes it's worth it.
No, I was going to say, but I think the goal that I have in my mind now is to utilize every service I can so I never have to leave my house unless I go to work. That's my goal.
Amen. See, that's the thing, though, is like you are paying, like, yeah, it's $38, but you're paying for the convenience of not having to have put on shoes and gone anywhere. Right.
Oh, Sarah, I'm the king of justification. I'm like, well, wait a second. The restaurant's 2.5 miles away. That's $7 in gas. So I'll put that no, believe me, I justify it, but it's a little wild, what you're willing to pay for convenience. The airport thing cannot be understated. When I was visiting home for Thanksgiving, and where we live in Southern Connecticut, the closest airport, closest airport with a direct to Salt Lake is JFK. And so my dad says to me, "What time is your flight?" And I said, "It's at 4." He said, "Okay, we'll leave at noon." I was like, "What?" We'll leave when? And he was right. Yeah. He was right. We had to leave at noon because it was a holiday weekend. There was traffic. I barely made my flight. If there's no traffic, I can get to this airport in 15 minutes, Sarah. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, man, that is such a difference because especially for someone like me or like the NBA players, right? Like they're obviously, have a chartered flight, but they still are at the airport.
Right. Yeah.
So wherever they're coming from, wherever their house is in the valley, they still have to get to the airport. And there's never a time where any of them are worried about what it's going to be like or how long it's going to take. Like, you add maybe an extra 10, 15 minutes if you're worried about traffic, right? Like, it is so, so nice to know that I can just be there in 10, 15 minutes.
Do the Jazz need to hire us to attract free agents? Is that what this conversation is?
Believe me, they've got plenty of people that they pay money to do that. And I mean, if they want to pay less, they can hire us, right?
No. I'm not taking a dime less. I want top dollar. I want that job. I'm trying to get us hired, Sarah. Play along, please.
Okay. Yeah. You know what? Hire me. I will offer everything, because the thing is like, we don't have to, talk up like the natural beauty of Utah or the tourism or anything like that. Like, I'm ready to tell the players exactly what they want to hear, right? Like, you want to come here and make money, there's a reason that people are calling this Silicon Slopes. We'll introduce you to investors. We'll introduce you to, like, tech moguls. That's what you want to hear. You want your money to work for you when you're gone? Come here, let it work in Utah, go wherever you want to in the off season, and that's what'll happen. That's what these guys want to hear.
Boom. Done. I hope the players are listening to this segment. I think we have done our jobs here. Is it are games more peaceful without Andy around? Is it nice to have him not around all the time?
Yeah, obviously.
Okay.
I think, everything in life is better with a little less Andy in it.
Yeah. No, I think we can all agree to that. Hey, let me ask you this. It just kind of dawned on me because Donovan was in town the other day. Cleveland was in town the other day. Talked about how different the arena is and how everything just looks different, feels different. You referenced Ryan Smith. What are the most notable changes to the fan experience, to the game day experience, to everything involved that you've noticed in Ryan's, I think, 5 years as the owner now? What are the most notable changes you've seen?
Yeah, I think, the way that the arena looks, and obviously there being the presence of a second team, right? Like, those are the most notable things. I think that I obviously don't see the arena the same way that all of the fans do, and so I think there's a lot of times that I miss stuff and that I don't experience it in the way that maybe everyone else does. But I think that the changes that some of them, while they've been really big, right, they were huge renovations done to just add some seating in certain places and change the angle in certain places and raise the floor of the arena just a few inches, and to create space for, like, the large hockey locker rooms and to make, like, a home for the Mammoth and whatnot. And all of those changes, while they seem really small, they required huge overhauls. And I think that what is really great is that those huge overhauls were done, number one, timely and without too much disruption. And number two, that it all kind of seems seamless. Like, it doesn't feel like when you go in that it's a completely different place, and only people who maybe have been in there as much as, like, me or Donovan would notice them when you walk in, right? But that they feel like they are kind of a part of the arena and that it wasn't kind of haphazardly put together. I think that's what is most important about it.
If it's draft night, Jazz have the number one pick, and Danny Ainge wants Darren Peterson and Austin Ainge wants A.J. DeBonsa, who wins that argument?
Wow, that is a great question. Oh, Man, that's a great question.
I think it's Austin.
I mean, I think it's Austin too. I think, I think that it was really telling, and that it was kind of surprising, but also really important that when Austin was first hired, there was a lot that was kind of unclear about how it happened, why it happened, etc. But the one thing that was made perfectly clear was that this is Austin's show and that he has final say.
Yep.
And, like, that was not the same conversation that was had when Danny Ainge was hired. Like, there were 2 years probably where all of us were like, I don't know, what does Justin Vanek do versus Danny Ainge versus Ryan Smith? I mean, at the time, I think when Danny was hired, Ryan said, I have final say himself, Ryan Smith. And when he handed it over to Austin, it was made very clear that Austin was going to have final say. And so I think that right now, like, the ultimate decision maker is Austin Ainge.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would imagine there would be a scenario where if Ryan felt strongly about something, when you're the principal owner of something, you get to make your own call. But that never goes well, and I don't know the inner workings of how that front office is, but I can tell you in my experience, meddling owners lead to Sacramento King type problems.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, you don't want that kind of a problem. And it's not even like meddling owners. It's like owners who don't trust the people they've put in place to actually do their jobs.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, if you're the one that's going to like come in and be making decisions, then what you're saying is, I don't trust you to do your job. And then everything just kind of fractures from there.
Well said. Shout out Colin for grocery shopping. You're going to need to watch Duke here in the next few weeks. You saw a picture of my dog, so you're going to come watch him soon, okay?
Absolutely not joking about that. Call me anytime.
Love it. Thanks, Sarah. Be good, okay?
Thanks, Ben.
Sarah Todd covers the Jazz for the Deseret News. When the Jazz are unserious about competing, we talk about our favorite TV shows, changes to the building, and you do the best you can. All right, then here on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700. Going to get you a Masters leaderboard update coming up momentarily. The 90th playing of the Masters tournament at Augusta National in Augusta, Georgia is going on right now. But it's time now for a little sports court with our good friends Garrett and Preston Handy from the law firm of Handy and Handy. Gentlemen, I met Preston's brother and Garrett's uncle last night at the State of Sport Awards. What a lovely guy. That was fun.
It's Garrett's dad. My brother.
Garrett's dad.
Garrett's dad.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Nonetheless.
My oldest brother is Garrett's dad.
Really nice guy. It was fun to say hello to him. So anyway, cool. Nobody gives a rip about that, so let's move on. All right, let's dig into it. Skiers suing two major resorts, the resort owners, over lift ticket prices. What's going on here?
Yeah, I think this has been brewing for quite a while. So that we're talking about it on Sports Court because skiers is a recreation sport. And now a group of skiers in a class action have sued Vail Corporation and Altera Corporation. They're two mega companies who have gone in and gobbled up a lot of the ski resorts around the country. And I don't know if you're a skier, Spence, but we ski a lot. And anyone that skis knows that skiing has changed a lot in the last 5 to 10 years. And the reason it's changed is because of these mega passes, the Icon and Epic passes that have been offered. And these plaintiffs claim that this group together, they kind of created a monopoly, and they are forcing people to enter into these agreements because if you don't get these, guess what? The ticket at the window for a ski day is about $300 to $350. Crazy, right? So what they're claiming is that they're forced into buying these rather than having a little bit of flexibility. In their lawsuit, they claim that the Vail and Altera artificially inflate daily lift prices to coerce skiers and snowboarders into buying expensive passes. They say for years skiers have been told that soaring lift prices, reduced choice, and overcrowding are simply just a new reality. They allege that the outcomes are not the result of healthy competition, but exclusionary conduct by two companies that dominate access to the most desirable destination. They claim that people are forced to do that. You've kind of got to buy your pass about right now for the next year, so people are gobbling those up. They're saying that they don't really get a chance to weigh this, that they're forced into it, and it's changed skiing. I mean, you've got everybody around the country showing up where it used to be, occasional weekenders, but it's really changed skiing. And what the ski resorts have said, they said, you can guess, they've said these claims are without merit, and we will defend them vigorously.
I want to follow up. I was going to ask you, I mean, as far as the way it has changed, the preferred activity of so many people, not just in our state, but people that are visiting our state. You hear these stories all the time. To your point, these conversations have been going on a lot. And I know a lot of people that have just tapped out of skiing because of traffic and because of the ridiculous prices. You're the expert here. Do you think there's a chance this is going to lead to any sort of change at all?
Well, I'm an expert not in the law. I'm an expert as a skier, and I've seen the change in skiing. I ask it's a double-edged sword. I've got an Icon pass, and on top of it, I got a Mountain Collective, and guess what it does? It allows me to have flexibility to go to all the resorts I really like to go to. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, they're packed. I think my alternative would be buy a season pass at one resort, and then you do that, and everybody's kind of confined to that resort. So, do I think it's going to change? Probably not, but I'd like to see what kind of teeth this lawsuit has for sure. If it brings into, I don't know if they're saying, hey, get rid of the Icon and the Epic Pass and the Mountain Collective. I don't know if they're saying that. I think they're kind of trying to force the issue of day passes. I mean, you can show up at Deer Valley and people buying day passes. It's like an airline ticket. It's going up and down as you sit there. It's crazy. I don't like it. And just to be able to ski is not a you can't just go do it. A family ski day is like ridiculous.
Yeah.
Glad I got my kids out of skiing when they were young. It's changed.
Yeah. All right, moving over to our next story. Donald Trump is going to make college sports great again. He has signed an order intended to stabilize college sports and then threatening some federal funding penalties in addition. Of course, we've talked a lot about this with a lot of different guests, Preston, but what's your angle here?
Well, yeah, so this came out that he has signed an executive order, and President Trump has been very prolific in his executive orders, and I went and read this. It says an executive order's authority must derive from an already existing statute or constitutionally enumerated presidential power. If not, it's generally not enforceable. Trump previously said the expected lawsuits to be filed against this to try and stop it. So the basis of it is he's going to the NCAA and say, hey, figure this out. And it's kind of aimed at what are the big three issues facing college sports now? NIL, eligibility, and transfer portal. And he's trying to put in place, he's saying to the NCAA, he has no authority to really do it. He's trying to say to the NCAA and federal agencies saying, hey, get after this and come up with a framework. And there's a bunch of people that are in favor. I mean, old guys, Saban and Urban Meyer and a lot of these guys, they want, to take college sports back to what it was. And I think that's kind of a pipe dream. But here's kind of some of the basics. Age-based eligibility limits and a 5-year eligibility period for athletes with limited exceptions. Professional athletes cannot return to college athletics. Transfer rules provide you get a one free transfer, and if you transfer again, then there's penalties like you have to sit out for a year, things like that. He says he wants to protect funding for women's sports, and one of the things he says is he may withhold federal funding for a lot of things. So, anything like this is going to run into some challenges, and it's going to run into the same challenges that we've been talking about for years, which started with Ed O'Bannon, the NIL, and then, people saying, oh, well, hey, if I'm limited, I can't go play at the school I want. That violates antitrust rules. I should be able to go compete where I want to. And then the eligibility thing that we've seen just blow up, I think people would like to see some type of safeguards and guardrails on eligibility and, the transfer portal, allow for transfers, but, not just, everybody. And listen, I guess if I were an athlete today and if I had a son playing, I'd say, enter the transfer portal. Look at your options, right? And so everyone's in the transfer portal, right? Whether you're going to stay at your school or not. So it's craziness. What these teams will look like next year is largely different than they look like this year.
Remember when you and I first started to get to know each other and you were hopping on the show to do Sports Court as a college football fan? I don't want to speak for you. You seem to be very concerned about what this meant for Utah football, college football. Now that we've got 5 years behind us, where are you at with this dynamic as just somebody who likes college football?
I'm a big Utah football fan, my wife and I, and we go to all the games and my kids, and it's just changed. There's not the predictability of watching this kid come as a freshman and excited to see him be as a sophomore and as a junior and kind of grow in the program and develop players. And it's changed, and I don't think there's any way around it. I think as a Utah fan, I was thinking most people want predictability, but maybe everyone doesn't want predictability. They don't want safeguards. The haves really don't want this in place, do they? No. I mean, the haves just the rich get richer. Yeah. And I think a lot of people would agree that Utah is kind of in that. You tell me if you agree, Spence. They're kind of in that gray zone of have and have-nots.
Yeah. Yep. Good.
And so they're kind of on the fence of it could really be great for them, then it also could kind of go bad, And so you question, that you want the same experience, but I think that's changed, and I'm used to it. Just kind of want to have the experience.
Yeah, I mean, the irony here is that the teams that are in the mix to win the national championship every year are the same teams for the most part. There's an Indiana story here or there, but you're still seeing Ohio State and Georgia and Bama and Notre Dame. The teams that were at the top prior to the transfer portal, for the most part, Preston, are still the teams at the top. It hasn't had this massive effect that I think a lot of people thought it would.
I agree. It's because those schools have the big funding. But yep. I did read an article where it said it's created more parity in the sense that if Alabama is 3 deep and 4 stars, that third deep kid says, you know what, I'm not sticking around here. Yep. I'm going to go play somewhere else. And so it does create a little parity and allows some of these other schools to get the 4 and 5 star kids, and so it has changed a little bit. I mean, I think Alabama is a perfect example of a school that's felt the fallen back a little bit, where they were just dominating for so many years. So it is, but for the most part, it's the haves, the same ones that are going to keep going.
Let's move over to this. Let's move over to the smart kids, the Ivy League kids. The Ivy League beats back sports scholarship lawsuit on an appeal. What happened here?
Yeah, we talked about this before. Let me pull this up. A few athletes, college athletes, and students from Brown University sued all the Ivy League schools and the Ivy League Conference, claiming that basically their main claim was against this issue of Ivy League schools have never provided athletic scholarships, and they claimed that this was a price fixing. It was antitrust. It violates antitrust federal laws, and so they sued the schools, and they've kind of come on their second loss now. They sued, and they lost at the trial court level, and the trial court level basically said you failed to really state something that really is a legal claim. But then it went on appeal, and the appeal court said, we reject plaintiffs' contention their allegations of direct anti-competitive harm excuse them from pleading a relevant market, if you can understand what that means for a second. But basically what they said is, hey, you have other options. I mean, that's kind of the thing. They're saying you have their options to go get great education and to play athletics and get an athletic scholarship. And apparently the Ivies, they entered into an agreement in 1954 that said it was called the Ivy League Agreement. No athletic scholarships for athletes. There's federal funding and there's financial aid and that type of thing, but they've just stuck by this and kind of said, if you want this Ivy League experience and you want to be a student athlete, here's how you do it.
All right, final one for today. It is in the world of college athletics. NCAA, they're trying to limit some draft eligibility stuff when it comes to players being able to go pro. And this is potentially, according to our guy Michael McMahon, could prompt some antitrust lawsuits of its own. What's going on here?
For sure it will. So, we've seen all these eligibility fights over the last couple of years, and a lot of them are our patron saint, Diego Pavia, trying to get another year and then another year and then another year. And a lot of athletes have followed suit with that. We've seen the nuances for, I never used my redshirt year, so I should get another year. I played Division I football, so I should get another year. I played junior college, so I should get another year. There's all these different arguments. Well, the ones that kind of hit us out of the blue this year were there were two basketball players that had entered the NBA draft. One entered the NBA draft, and I don't remember if he was drafted, but he went and played professional ball in Europe. Well, he wanted to come back and play, I think it was at Baylor, because he realized, hey, guess what? I can play. There's earning opportunities, and I can do better and maybe get in the draft a couple years. The court ruled for him. And the other guy, the Alabama guy, who actually was drafted, I think in the second round, he was a good Alabama player. He won his preliminary injunction, which allowed him to go back and play for a few games, and then the court finally came down on the ruling and said, nope, you're out of here. So I think what they're trying to do is just kind of get a framework in place for this specific thing, just saying, as Division I members proceed with reviewing all eligibility rules in the months ahead, our focus will be establishing rules that have objective criteria consistently applied. One of the proposals would require prospects to withdraw from opt-in professional league drafts, including the NBA draft, to bring pre-college enrollment drafts in line with post-college enrollment draft rules. So that's what they're trying to target here. And will it be challenged? It's already been challenged. Just because there's a written rule in place and Charlie Baker is supporting it doesn't mean that there won't be those that are trying to challenge it. And we've seen courts rule differently across the board. So who knows what's going to happen. But I think everyone's just trying to get a framework in place, and I don't know if this is the way to do it. I think there's a bigger way to try to address all this and give us some predictability, but we'll see what happens there.
Preston, appreciate the time, my man, flying solo today. For any of our listeners who have legal questions, how can they get a hold of you over at Handy and Handy?
Yeah, I love coming on here, Spence, talking about these issues in the world of sports and legal issues. We'd love to hear from anyone out there and serve as a legal resource to you, but help you with your personal injury case. Call us at 801-264-6677. We'd love to hear from you. Jump on our website at handylawutah.com.
Thank you, sir. Have a great weekend. As always, go Utes.
Thanks, Spence. Go Utes.
All right. There he is. Garrett Handy flying solo. Preston Handy. No Garrett today. Preston flying solo today. Any legal questions, give them a call, man. They're really good people. All right. Before we catch a break, let's give you a quick leaderboard update. Justin Rose is making a move. The Uinta Golf PGA Tour update for the Masters. Swing into Uinta Golf for the new Titleist Vokey SM11 wedges. I just got these. They're awesome. The new Vokey SM11 wedges are tour-inspired to have optimized flight, improved spin performance, and tour-level grinds. Now at Uinta Golf, your leaders in the clubhouse are Sam Burns and Rory McIlroy at 5 under par. They both carded a 67. Justin Rose is through 15. He just birdied 15. He's at 4 under par, second place on his own. Kurt Kitayama, Jason Day, and Patrick Reed all are in the clubhouse, carding 69s for 3 under par. Shane Lowry, Xander Schauffele, Scotty Scheffler. Scotty's 2 under through 16. He's still on the course. There is no Tony Finau, unfortunately, no local flavor. Tommy Fleetwood, get you some notables, 1 under par. Gary Woodland, who won last week, is 1 under par. Max Homa is even, as is Keegan Bradley. Wyndham Clark also even. Jordan Spieth was at 3 under, but he struggled to get into the clubhouse. He finished at even, carding a 72. The live guys struggled. Bryson DeChambeau, 4 over par. John Rahm, 6 over par. We do have one local player. I'm just realizing Mike Weir is playing because, of course, he is. He won the thing. He is tied for 86th at 9 over. Tough day for Mike Weir. All right, 3 hours down, 1 hour to go. Final hour of the program is next on ESPN 700. All right, wrapping it up. Final segment of the show. Lovely Thursday. Hopefully you guys spent some time outside today. About 72 degrees and mostly clear. Little cloud coverage, but nothing too heavy. I want to revisit something that we talked about yesterday that I didn't get a follow-up. I asked, asked Andy Larson. We'll use 16 at Augusta, the par 3 to close. I said if I gave him one swing and you land on the green, I'll give you 10 mil. And if you don't, you spend a year in jail. Andy was not interested at all. You seemed quite eager.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now I've got to discover where the line is, okay? What if I said, okay, you get one swing, 16 at Augusta, you land on the green, you get $1 million,
yep.
or you spend a year in jail.
I'm in.
Are you serious?
$1 million? Yeah.
A year?
You could offer me a year in jail for $1 million, and I'll do it. I don't even need the golf swing involved.
Wait.
Just give me $1 million. I'll go to jail for a year.
Are we talking county or federal prison?
I'm hoping county.
What if it was federal prison? What if it was like Alcatraz?
$1 million?
Yeah.
Maybe.
You still would do that?
I might.
I don't feel like you've had an extended stay in jail.
Not extended.
Okay. All right.
Or prison.
$500,000. Okay, you land on the green, $500,000. You don't, 2 years in jail. Porter, the answer is no.
That one I'm going to say no.
Okay, we found the line. I think I would do the 10 mil or 1 year.
Absolutely.
I think those are my terms. If somebody's like, what are your terms? And by the way, tax-free, 10 mil, I want all of it, okay? If I could end up with $10 million in my pocket for one swing and the risk is 1 year in jail, I think that's my baseline.
The nerves would be there, but yeah, I'm swinging.
Okay. Well, round 1 Masters. Rory McIlroy hasn't played competitive golf in a month. He and Sam Burns are your leader. Justin Rose just doesn't age, man. This too can rake. So we'll have some fun covering this the rest of the way. Want to let you know tonight at 10:35 on KMYU, it is episode 7 of Talkin' Real. So it's a very special guest, Jason Kreis, will be my co-host, president of soccer ops for both the Royals and RSL. Royals off to a great start as well, 7 points in their last 3, so stay tuned for that. Friday tomorrow, weekend time, we have all earned it. Porter, how are we going to celebrate appropriately?
A Friday edition of The Drive. Howard Beck stops by for your NBA Daily Assist. Chris Kamrani is in studio for an entire hour. Our friend Kalen Jones from Untold and Netflix. Paul Pugmire talking some Masters. So we'll hit all over the map on a Friday.
There you go. So join us. Get your weekend started out the right way. We'll say goodnight. Special thank you today to Spencer Nelson, Dave McMiniman, as well as Sarah Todd and our good friend Preston Handy from Sports Court. If you missed any of the sound today, website is ESPN700sports.com. Download the mobile app, take us on the go, then check out the podcast page. I'm asking you currently to subscribe to 2 pods, if you would be so kind. This one is called The Drive with Spence Checketts. The other one is called Reality Check with Spence Checketts. Episode 2 dropped yesterday, a long-form conversation with Pablo Mastroeni, Alex Jensen next week, and Ryan Smith the week after that. For Porter, I'm Spence saying goodnight. Have a beautiful Thursday evening. Enjoy yourself. We'll talk to you on a Friday drive. As always, you can catch it right here on ESPN 700.